All right, welcome back to Dietitians Who Lift. My name is Summer, I'm a registered dietitian, and today with me we have dietitian Kylie, who I feel like we've been Instagram friends for like forever.
Hi.
And I just love your content, how heavy you lift, how like seriously you take the gym, but then also like have such practical advice and like really great content. So kudos. And I didn't know until right before we got on this call that you have 4 kids. I knew you were a mom, but I didn't realize you had 4 kids. So the way that you managed to do all of this is like spectacular. So welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you. Say hey, introduce yourself, and like tell us who you are and what kind of dietitian you do.
Yeah, for sure. I'm Kylie. Last name is like if you don't know, now you know. Apparently that's like a rap song. My husband was like a college football player and that's how he taught everybody to say his last name. So I just stole that. I literally have no idea what song it's from. I'm a dietitian, also a personal trainer, and a mom of 4. So I like chaos, apparently, is like what it is. I've been a dietitian like almost 10 years this summer, which is kind of wild to think about in general.
Yeah, me too. I'm right at 10 years or 11. 10, I think this year's 11. This August is
Yeah.
11 for me.
And I've kind of been like, I don't want to say on a wild journey. I feel like it's a very typical journey for dietitians now. I started out as an inpatient clinical dietitian. We're from Cincinnati, like the Midwest, and we are fortunate enough to have like 3 or 4 major hospital systems within us. So I was like an inpatient float dietitian. So I didn't have my own assigned floor. I just kind of like bopped around for all of those dietitians that were either like off on the weekends or like weren't healthcare terms like a 1.0 FTE. So I just kind of bopped around consistently on different floors. So everything from like ortho knee replacement coverage to like high-end ICU, like customized CPNs to like high-risk maternity too is what one of our hospitals had. And like right before COVID, I just had this inkling that that's like not where I wanted to be because I don't know, it like the inpatient setting was making me feel dumb, I guess, because the education that we were giving, right? Um, and so I felt called, sure, had an awakening to become a personal trainer because like, those like lovely handouts where it's like, eat 1,200 calories, exercise for 150 minutes a day. I was like, what does that, like, I don't know what that means. What does 150 minutes of
We,
exercise mean?
we would get these I did inpatient acute care too, and we would get
Yeah.
these consults for education. And it would be like newly diagnosed with diabetes.
Yeah.
Like, I've got 20 other people on my roster. This person speaks Spanish. I'm in Florida, like, speaks Spanish.
Yep.
My handout that is translated to Spanish has no Spanish foods on them,
No.
right? And it's like,
Yeah.
I also have like maybe 10 minutes to find the translator iPad and come talk to this person and give them the basics. And I came after many years of like trying to squeeze it in and realize it wasn't
Mhm.
effective and like, how do I do this better?
Yeah.
Just emphasizing to people like, you need to follow up with a dietitian. You need to check your benefits and see if you can go to a class. Like,
Yeah.
please go to your doctor's appointment after this hospitalization. Like, that was more effective than trying to teach anything about nutrition.
No,
Like,
and I would literally like at the end, like our minimum number of patients to see a day was 15. That included new and follow-up. So like 15 follow-ups, like maybe not terrible if you didn't get stuck in rounds for 3 hours, depending on who the attending and who the residents were that day. But I was like, this is so dumb. Like, I made a list of all of our outpatient dietitians and I was like, please see what your benefits are. There's a class on, I think it was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They had classes like every other week for diabetes and like the cardiac education. I was like, please go to that. Like, read through this, formulate some questions, like, think about what you do know about diabetes or like heart health and think about what you don't know. And then come up with some questions so that you can like apply this uber basic handout that I'm giving to you and hopefully learn something so that I don't see you back here in like 20 days with DKA or something like that.
yeah, it was always so inpatient was hard. And it's like you thought you would always want to do the most and then
Yeah.
not have the time or the resources. And I was lucky. I worked in an excellent like resourced hospital. We
Mhm.
had a lot of tools and resources. We had outpatient dietitians. We had a nice little brochure. We had diabetes educators, but it was still that grind of like, I don't know this person. I'm never probably going to see them again. no idea how they're gonna do or follow up. So, like, I get you. Like, now I never thought I would be an outpatient dietitian, like a
Yeah.
virtual weight
Yeah.
management
Isn't it
counseling
wild?
dietitian. But, like, the joy of it is not just the initial visit, it's the follow-ups, it's the
Yes.
relationships, it's the connections, it's, like,
Yes.
watching people's journeys and being a
Yes.
part of that, like, that's what I really love, and I think you see that too as, like, a personal trainer, right? Because you
Yeah.
meet with people. Do you
Over
meet
and
with people
over.
in person, like, at your gym,
Yes.
or
Well,
tell me about that.
so I became a personal trainer 2019 and then quit my hospital job. I had gone from like essentially full time, like a point 0.8 to like a point 0.5, and then PRN because I was like figuring out my life. We were about to have our third kid. COVID hit, gym shut down. I was glad to not be in the hospital. Finished my personal training certificate, and then I started training at a local gym that's like 2 minutes from our house. And it was just mostly doing the training thing, honestly. It was like side hustling dietitian stuff or just like random people at the gym. And then like a year into that, I was like, I could like do this all online. Duh. I already have an LLC. Like it can't be that hard. So I talked to our accountant being like, where do I need to like cover my butt here? Honestly, like what do I need to do? X, Y, and Z. So then I was like, let's start this up. So right now, I train people out of our home gym, like at our house. So I literally walk down the steps in the morning to the gym, turn the lights on, and I train like maybe 10 to 15 hours in person every week for just like people that I really like.
Like, your
So
neighbors, like, people in your community, like, people you know, like,
yeah, so
past
I,
clients that you, like, had a really good relationship with that
yeah,
you trust, yeah.
yeah. So like our local gym, it's more of like a community center. So they fortunately for me didn't have any like competition rules of like me taking clients. So the clients that I was like, I would bring you into my home and hang out with you. I asked, I was like, I'm gonna leave this setting because it's just not working with 4 young kids at this point. Like, do you want to come over and work out? Like, I'll send you a video of the gym. I promise that I'm not gonna like kidnap you or anything. Do you know what I mean? And so I did. So I trained mostly women. I trained like a couple husbands is how I like to filter it in there. Like the wives trained with me and the husbands were like,
Coming
oh,
along.
I kind of want to do it, but like I don't want to train with my wife. I want to do it by myself. Classic males. We love them. So I train like 10 to 15 hours in person a week, just like people in the community. I have a couple of clients that will make like a 20 to 30-minute drive, and I'm like honored that they would do that because there are so many gyms nowadays. Um, and then I also have like a monthly online strength program for people that like in-person training can be expensive. Like I get it. It's not a cute time to be alive right now for costs of things. So I'm like, this is a basic strength training membership. You get 3 days of strength, one upper body, one lower body, one full body. That way you can still do like other stuff that you like. If you like going to group fitness or you like going to yoga or you like running or whatever, that you could do it. So that's
Yeah.
what I do on like a personal training side of things. And then from a nutrition side, everything is virtual, which is so lovely. And I see clients in like many capacities. I have a lot of one-on-one clients, and then I run like a 4 week like nutrition challenge reset for women that are focusing on like fat loss and body recomposition. So it's not targeted to moms, but I feel like I just draw them in is who my primary focus is. So moms in those like stages of like perimenopause where they're like, what is going on with my body? What is happening? And so it's a lot of, I like to say, unlearning and relearning like the basics of nutrition and how to fuel your body. Like I just finished
So
the,
much
yeah,
unlearning, right?
yes,
I feel like I do not I have people who come in, especially in this weight management space, who almost know too much for their own good. Like, overthinking it, overcomplicating it. They have all these rules, all these regulations, all these, like,
mhm,
things that they have to do. They really set themselves up for this to feel like this overwhelming project. And I'm
yes.
like, let's peel away the unnecessary stuff and, like, relearn the basics. And sometimes those are like the most profound. I literally had a woman this morning that we spent the entire session understanding carbohydrates.
Oh,
Was
100%.
so afraid of them, but loved them and
Yes,
craved them and
yes,
missed them and was
yes,
mourning and but was restricting them and then couldn't control herself around them and, like,
yes,
so was scared of them and they were gonna hurt her, and it's like,
yes. Oh, wow.
and that's, I think often we see in podcasts and in tweets and on
Yes,
Instagram, a
all over.
2-second, "Carbs are great, please eat them," kind of content. That was a long, hard conversation about the risks and the benefits and why you probably learned it this way. not because I'm not invalidating you, and I don't wanna make people feel like they're stupid, like, you're not
Yeah,
stupid, like,
yeah,
there's reasons you believe these things.
yes,
This is the science, this is what's real, this is what's practical, and
yes,
this is how it will help you have a better life,
yes.
and that's a hard, long, back and forth conversation, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know how much I got through today,
Yeah,
but we'll bring it up again and again and again if she
and again and again.
comes back, and
Yes.
that's what we do, I think
Yeah.
more is unlearning.
Yes, that's literally what 99% of the job is. And then
Mhm.
1% education. Like, I always tell other dietitians, like, I take a couple dietitians from, like, my alma mater, um, and they're like, "Oh, I love this, like, nuance of sports nutrition." I was like, "No, you gotta just get him to eat something other than Takis, Diet Coke, and, like, Body Armor." Like, I love your enthusiasm, I really do, but, like, I need you to remind these kids that, like, they have to eat something. Like, I'm always like, "You can't take apart and pull apart when you don't have any foundation of anything," right? Like, you would never build a house without, like, some form of plan or something like that, and the plan is the freaking basics. Like, yeah, so glad that you eat enough protein. I like to call it protein with my clients because they're always like, I saw somebody just like eating a chicken leg at the Renaissance Festival and then he like brought it home and made bone broth. I'm like, okay, food safety is another topic of discussion. Second topic of discussion is I'm glad that you're eating a ton of protein. Like, are you constipated? Like, do you feel gross? Do you feel sluggish? And they're like, Yeah. I'm like, okay, like how many cups, if you had to guess, of like produce do you eat a day? Like fruit and vegetables. And they're like, I don't eat fruit. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I'm like, so tell me how your workouts are going. And they're like, I mean, I feel like really terrible after them. Like I have the flu. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So, like, what I'm gonna have you do is eat, like, 5 grapes before a workout. That's it. Just 5 grapes, maybe, like, 2 pieces of watermelon now that it 'tis the season, and they're like, "Kylie." I'm like, "Right? I know what you're gonna say. You had a great workout, didn't you?" And they're like, it was speed testing day, and I did this." And, like, this is from youth, right? Which, like, I don't expect them to know anything at, like, the junior high and high school level. But my older females who are like, "I can't even, like, look at the carbs, like, I don't even go through the produce section, like, I have to go to the self-checkout lane where there aren't the candy bars or things like that." And I'm like, "Okay, but I wanna remind you, like, what are you reading when you are in the checkout lanes? Like, what are all the magazines still saying? Drop 22 pounds of water weight in 22 days, melt this fat off your body." I'm like, it's still indoctrinated that you should fear carbs when we know that they are like what makes us happy from like a mental and a physical perspective. And they're
I've
like,
been using the, like, analogy lately with my folks on GLP-1s. I am I think that the general public of
"Mhm,
patients, but also providers and dietitians, when they're talking with people on GLP-1s especially, the missing link for almost everyone on a GLP-1 to have a better experience is
mhm,
to eat more carbohydrates.
yes,
I am constantly recommending more carbohydrates, and it
yeah,
shocks people. And I
yes,
say this to, like, I went to a conference, obesity medicine conference. I was like, wow, nobody's talking about carbs. Like, we need a whole presentation on the magic of carbohydrates for people on
yes,
GLP-1 medications. Like, I need to give this talk
yes,
because these folks who very well may for
mhm,
their entire lives felt insulin resistant because of the obesity, because of PCOS, because they have pre-diabetes, and been encouraged to reduce their carbohydrates.
mhm,
First of all, what does that even mean?
yeah,
It means don't overeat them, but we hear have less, and people just say, well,
no,
less than none should be even better than less, which
yes,
the whole thing of
that's a
how
whole
people
other
interpret
mindset.
nutrition information. But what I explain to people on GLP-1s, especially with carbohydrates, is like these medicines have reversed that insulin resistance.
Yes,
So now when you eat carbs, you actually will use them appropriately for energy,
mhm,
which feels amazing
yes,
and will settle your stomach and give you energy and you won't be fatigued.
yes,
And because you have this tool on board that's better controlling your appetite, if we're eating some protein and some produce,
mhm,
not gonna overeat the carbs. Like, you'll get to a point where, like, you can't eat any more of the potatoes because
yeah,
you are full.
you're
So
full.
you can trust yourself around these foods
Yes.
a little bit more.
Yeah.
But then like sometimes that's just like, no, but the calories still count. I'm still trying to lose weight. I'm going to restrict. And then I think I get through to them the best when I talk about muscle preservation,
Yes.
because everybody thinks about muscle preservation in terms of protein. I have to eat more protein. And I'm like, well, I mean, protein's kind of important, but actually more important is the training stimulus. So like first we got to work out.
Yeah.
Then we
Like,
got to eat enough protein and like not cut calories too far. Like that's the whole thing.
yes.
But actually to get that protein that you're like killing yourself to eat a bunch of
Yes.
into your muscle needs carbohydrates to ride along on. And people are like, what?
I
And I'm like,
literally call carbohydrates a skateboard.
yeah. I'm like, it's the vehicle that takes these carbs and puts them with the protein where they need to go to build your muscles so that you can use them, so that you can train harder,
Yes.
so that you can keep your muscles. And people are like, what? I'm like, science.
Or you're like, okay, reminder, like carbohydrates get stored as glycogen, right? Like I'm always like, okay, go back to ninth grade biology. Let's create a little bit of trauma that we'll work on later. Let's go back to ninth grade biology. Do you remember all those glucose words? And they're like, yes, terrible. And I'm like, okay, let's go back there. I'm like, what's happening when you're not eating a consistent number of carbohydrates, whether it's you're like not eating them at all, or you're eating them, then binging them, then regretting it, and like going in whatever vicious cycle it is? What's happening is that, like, I always compare it. I'm like, you get a lot of hype about like your VO2 max and where your body utilizes like carbohydrates versus fats. Yeah, 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 yeah. But you know what's even easier to break down than fat to utilize for energy is protein. So you've got like this cute little braid of protein, and that's a lot easier to undo and like make look decent than it is to get a dreadlock out of your hair, which is fat, to break down for energy when your body needs it the most. Sure, you're doing something like that involves not such a drastic change in energy requirements, sure, but you're mostly utilizing carbohydrates. And like, if you're not using carbohydrates, your body is pulling from your muscle where it's searching for the carbohydrates and the glycogen to break down into glucose, right? Like, let's trauma into the glucose cycle. And that's where you're seeing like a wrecked metabolism, or you feel like you can't make any gains, or like you feel like your workouts suck, is because eat a freaking banana. Just like eat a banana.
I'll never forget the bro that I convinced to eat a banana with honey before his like high intensity CrossFit class. And he was low carb. And I was like, just a banana, a little bit of honey,
Something.
something. And he was like, came back the next day. He goes, I wasn't in, he's like, I'm kicking ass. Like, I'm beating
Yes.
people. I'm like, you're performing
Yes.
because you have fuel.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So
like
you
what?
work with, you said a lot of moms,
A lot
but
of
then,
them.
so like kids, right? You're doing like sports for kids. My little guy made the soccer team for the club season or whatever under
Okay.
his soccer mom. And he's a skinny mini. I
Yeah.
cannot get him to eat. He's
Yep.
picky. He thrives on carbohydrates. His favorite food is white rice.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not thinking that he needs a dietitian or anything. Like, I'm just trying to get him to eat. But like, at what age
Mhm.
is it appropriate to say, my kid's an athlete,
Mhm.
I would like them to work with a dietitian? Like, where do you think that that starts to be like good, useful, helpful, or could it be problematic? Like, is there an age range where you think that that really becomes useful?
Yeah. And I think like what I always tell my dietetic interns too is like sports nutrition, especially if you're working with like youth and high school athletes, you're dealing with the parents. Ain't no kid that's going to the grocery store at age 12 doing all the cooking and all the prep work. Um, so a lot of what I find is like the parents are the issue. They're like, my 11-year-old needs to do this. And I was like, I really love you. Your son hasn't hit puberty yet. Like, we're not going to put 10 pounds of muscle on him. Like, that's just physically not happening before this kid hits puberty. And they're like, well, his brother. And I was like, love that. We love familial relationships. We love that. But genetics are totally different between kid to kid. So I do not see any like one-to-one student athletes until they have hit puberty for boys, which ranges usually from like 14 to 18. And then I will see girls starting at age 14. So once they enter that high school era where like if they are hoping to play at the next like elite level, like college level, I'm like, okay, now you need to be serious, and now you need to learn how to feel your body not only through high school, but this is going to set you up for success in college in general, whether or not you play a sport. Because like the dining hall for the first time, even as someone who has, like, I have felt mostly in control over my food intake, we all gained some weight freshman 15 because, like, it's unlimited access to soup. You just swipe the freaking card. So I start to see students then. I partner with the local gym that does like specific athlete training. And so, like this summer, I will have my interns bop around to the different high schools where they train and do mini talks about like what a training plate looks like, right? Because the plate method for athletes is like slightly different and just kind of like where you go from that phase. So they do basic education on that. Like, are you eating breakfast? Like, what are you doing during a lift? I've got these like really cool fueling timelines for athletes. It's like if you have weights at this time and practice at this time, or if you just have practice or weights, like this is what you need to be fueling with throughout the day. And it's a whole 8 by 8.5 by 11 page of like you need to eat almost all day. Like, it is what it is. If you're training 2+ hours a day and you're not fueling your body, like, it's not gonna be good for you academically for grades and, like, studying on top of trying to be an elite athlete. So I do a lot of team talks is what I end up doing, and then, like, on my website, I have kind of, like, essentially, like, the breakdown of my basis of what I do for all team talks, like, it's just called Confident Athlete Fueling Guide, and it goes over literally just the basics of nutrition, hydration, electrolytes, supplements, because we know teenagers love a supplement, and then the timelines are like included in that too. And that is honestly like what people do most. I'm like, not to like talk you out of working with the dietitian, but like, let's start here. And then if
Mhm.
you need a call to like discuss, like, I'll pop into the gym if you're there like on a weeknight that I'm free, or like you and I can have a phone conversation with the parents. And that's really like the most effective thing. And a lot of people are like, wow, I really just like needed the visual of like what the plate should look like. Do you know what I mean? Like what I'm doing now, in my professional opinion, like it's just the basics, really, with like a little bit of nuance and a little bit and a ton of education.
Personalize it a little bit for your sport, your
Yes,
schedule, your
yes.
goals, but the basics are the same. I feel
Foundation.
like it's so funny. Every single episode of this podcast, every single person that I talk to, we come to
Yes,
this conversation that I wish
yes.
more people would just focus on the basics.
Yes, and I'm like, I love that you're really focused on, like, nutrient timing, but, like, if he's not eating enough nutrients from the get-go, I can't do shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, nothing these little tedious pieces mean absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things and may make things worse if you don't have the basics down. Like,
Yeah, enough calories, enough carbs, enough protein, some vegetables,
yes, like, please,
hydrated.
for the love of God, eat produce. Like, all of my nutrition clients, either in the one-to-one setting or in the group setting that are non-athletes, like, just like my moms and women, I'm like, "This is your bare minimum, like, structure, and then we're gonna tailor it to you." But in that, it's the bare minimum of 2.5 cups of produce a day, and I would say 99.999% of them are not even eating, like, a cup of produce a day. They're like, "But I've just been focused on, like, protein and healthy fats." And I'm like, "That's lovely. I love that for you. You're missing one piece. All the macronutrients were put on a plate for a reason, which means you should be eating them."
I always tell people protein's important, but it shouldn't be your whole personality, and it's not any more important than any of the other macronutrients.
No. No,
Yeah,
and,
they're
like,
all equally, if there's one we had to get rid of, like if we had to get rid of a food group, I personally tell people that they can probably come off of like their keto era fats.
yes,
'Cause some
100%.
people are real generous with the oils and the nuts and the avocado and the cheese. And I'm like, if weight loss is your goal, we could come off the fats. We
Yes.
could add. I had this conversation with my fasting low carb lady today. I was like, would you rather eat, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter or a whole cup of rice for exactly the same calories?
Yes.
It's like, they're the same calories. I'm like, they're the same.
Yeah, boo. Yes.
And so that is like breaking it down for people into those, or like you could have even more potatoes than rice. Like
Exactly.
visualizing it sometimes for
Yes.
people is really important. And
Yeah.
talking about nutrition with people, especially kids, I think, terms of like food items. Like when we say produce, I know what you mean. You know what I mean. But like when we're talking with kids, especially, we've got to almost like name them out. Like, what's your favorite fruit? What vegetables do you usually eat? What have you had at school? Like, and really pull out of them, like, make it real.
Real.
Because if you're like, just eat carbs, and people are like, carbs? Okay, like candy? I'm like, no, no, like oatmeal, potatoes, rice, pasta.
Yeah.
And they're like, yogurt, fruit. And they're like, these things
Huh?
have carbs. And I'm like, yes, like these are all great for you.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. I want to ask you how you fit in making content on social media
God.
because you film yourself working out a lot. You make really great reels. It seems like I'm always seeing a new post from you. Do you have like a schedule? Do you plan it? Does it just happen? Because my content just happens. If I happen to get like a note, like a cancellation on the calendar, I have 30 minutes and like I just had a session talking about carbs, I might make a video about carbs. Like, how do you put your social media together?
A lot of it is honestly like questions in my DMs. Like that's where a lot of my content comes from is like questions in my DMs or even honestly like family members asking questions or like when I'm being a bit nosy and like eavesdropping at soccer practice or dance or whatever, like whatever the moms are talking about, I'm like, dear God, like, please let this reach your explore page. I'm just gonna like put a sticker up of my like handle at the dance studio. That's where a lot of it comes from. And then like from a filming perspective, I'm like, okay, film yourself working out. Like you can remember to do that. And then like film yourself walking the dogs. Like literally things that I do on a daily basis. I'm like, okay, just film that because like the dogs are like, I can see the feet out at the door right there. Like they're always with me. God love it. And then like I try to post like 3 times a week. And like really there's no like rhyme or reason behind it, but whatever I feel like people are coming to me about or like I do discovery calls just to make sure that like people aren't psychopaths and like I'm a good fit for them. And a lot of it like I pull from that like what are you struggling with? And a ton of like what people say is like accountability. So I'm like, okay, let me be your accountability partner like free on the interwebs and go from there. And like keeping it real. Like I've always tried to like potentially like hire people out to do like more like curated content, but I'm like, that's just not who I am.
Well, and I realize, I've been really growing my social media for like 10 years now. Before that, before I was even a dietitian, I've been posting forever about myself and my journey and my perspective on things, right? So it's like, I'm good at social media. I know what I'm doing. I can make a reel, whatever. And then, and Dr. Spencer's the same way, right? Like, I'm working with Dr. Spencer. We just created this clinic vineyard. He's like, I know social media. I've got a great following. You've got a great following. We don't need a marketing person. We can do it ourselves. And then I'm probably telling on ourselves, but we realized that we are both individually great at being ourselves
Yeah.
on socials, but marketing a business and a
It's
product
yeah.
and a service is very different than marketing yourself or just sharing information. And it was like, how do we make this new social media page, this Join Vineyard account, the TikTok, the Instagram, how do we grow it with new audiences that don't know us,
Yes.
right? And it's like, Spencer, I don't know how to do that. Everything I'm going to make is going to look like the stuff I post, and everything you're going to make is going to look like the stuff you post. How do we post? And so we hired somebody, and she's been fantastic. And it's like, she has a different style, a different perspective. That's her sole focus. So we can do the patient care, we can do the talking, we can come up with the content ideas and like approve them and collaborate on them, but then like
Yeah.
she puts the spit on it. And I think that that was money well spent. And I worry sometimes that a lot of us dietitians who are we have these pages. This made me think like, oh gosh, if I ever, not that I'm ever leaving, this is like my forever job, but like I can see where it's a struggle to go from your page that showed your life
Mhm.
to I have a service to sell you and making those, I'm not just selling you myself, I'm selling you this product or this service. How hard that is
Literally
to
so
like
hard.
have a brand to try to sell the brand and not just have it be a repeat of you.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't imagine. So do you
No.
ever try to separate it out? Because I did that once. I had my family page, my personal page, and then I had my dietitian page, and I was trying to keep them separate, and it was just so much work.
Yeah. No, I've like thought about it. Like I have a little one like for just like athlete specific stuff, but I honestly like don't post from that a ton like I did in the beginning just because I had stuff ready. But like for me, like the realness of what I post is like everyone's like, "Yep, nailed it." Like In stories, I tend to be, like, a little more personal per se, and then, like, on the page, like, on my feed is more, like, education or inspiration or whatever the hell you wanna call it, but, like, like, obviously a ton of my clients follow me, duh, that's how they got there, but they're like, "Yes, like, Maycember struggle bus, like, our three-year-old has been, like, shrieking, like, angrily, happily, sad, like, they're learning, like, how to associate colors with your feelings, and he is in the red zone or the blue zone, which are anger and sadness quite often, apparently. And so, like, we've been sitting outside in the morning to, like, recalibrate, and, like, everyone was like, "Yep, feel that, nailed it, yep, yep, yep." So, I'm a mom, first and foremost, like, out of anything. Wife, sure, whatever. Sorry, partner, kids. But, like, I'm a mom, and, like, my husband works in education, so his schedule is about to free up now, but, like, I'm the default parent, so, like, I'm a mom first, nutrition and my clients come second, and I remind people of that, like, reminder, I am a human, like, I don't answer messages after 5 p.m. You're gonna get a response at 5 a.m. when I wake up. Like, I'm in bed when you're messaging me. I love you. I'm not turning on a notification for that. Like, if it's an emergency, please call 911 is what I tell people. I'm like,
Nothing in nutrition is an emergency
no, exactly. I'm
that
like,
I can help you with.
no, like, you live across town. Like, there's no way I can give you like a pen of insulin. Like, I don't carry that. Like, if you're in DK, you got to call 911 and go to the hospital. And so I like to remind people of that. Like, even when you're working with a dietitian or a personal trainer, like, that shouldn't be your whole personality because it's not my whole personality and it's my job. Like, people pay me to do that. Like, self-pay, no insurance pay, like, people pay me to do that, but it's not my whole personality, like, I'm a human, I like cookies, I've literally tried every, like, healthified cookie recipe, they all taste like garbage, just eat a cookie and then figure out how to balance the plate the rest of the day, the rest of the week, the rest of the month from that. So, like, that's just, like, where I go, and, like, that's just where I pull content from, is, like, where do I see people struggling, like, either parents talking at the park, like, God love elementary school, but, like, hearing moms chatting, like, in, like, the kindergarten orientation line or, like, waiting to get on the bus
Isn't
or
it crazy how these conversations about nutrition and struggles and body
yes,
image things and fitness things come up in everywhere you are and like
every aspect of
everything
life.
you do and like I made the mistake. I don't know if it was a mistake or a good thing. It's a good thing because I'm not obviously I share who I am and people
Yeah,
know who I am like
yeah.
online or whatever, but like I joined the F45 gym that I've been going to. So a hurricane took out my CrossFit gym, had to re-figure out what I was going to do.
Mhm,
Join this F45, love it, obsessed, fantastic. Go to the 5 a.m. class, get it over with. And I still do some other training, but like that's been my routine and I love it. And I tagged them on Instagram and then the F45
mhm,
followed me back and then they started sharing my stories and then so other members started recognizing that I was a
mhm.
dietitian and then they're like, "Are you a dietitian?" And then so people will I'll be there for my workout. Love them, but like asking me nutrition questions, I'm like, "Bro, I'm not awake yet. I got a full-time job. I don't have to think about this until like 9 a.m. Right. I'm here checking my emails because I have no self-control, but like I'm off right now. And like, "Oh, but I thought you were and then even the coach was like, "Oh, Summer's a dietitian. She could help you figure out your protein needs." I was like, "Yeah, people pay me for that.
Yeah, like, that
Here's
there's
my
a fee
card."
for that.
Yeah. And
Like,
so it's interesting because it's like I'm proud of being a dietitian. I want people
yes.
obviously that's a great lead generator to have a good relationship with people at your gym, but like keeping that boundary sometimes can be like kind of could be tricky.
Yeah, and, like, even, like, even with, like, family or friends or things like that, it's like, "I love you, I can't answer that question, you're not a client." And, like, I feel like people struggle with this, and, like, I even have, like, not to, like, crap on my male clients, but, like, they want a definitive answer about something, and I'm like, "I love you, but, like, I don't I don't know that about you yet because you're a training client only. If you want to be a dual client, like, I'm gonna need a lot more information from you. Like, I can't recommend your protein needs unless I have a little bit of medical history on there. Or, like, if I know what's happening. Like, I don't think dietitians realize, like, or not dietitians, I don't think people realize how much nuance dietitians have to deal with, even from, like, a healthy individual perspective. Do you know what I mean? So, like, well, I just need you to tell me, like, what's the finite answer? And I'm like, there is not a finite answer because I don't know enough about you.
Yeah. I
And
get
they're
this
like, what do you
I
mean?
the Instagram DMs, or like when I do the question
Yes.
box and stuff, and people will pour their hearts out into my DMs with all this medical history and all these questions, and like, I want to help you. I could help you. Not appropriate for me to
Yeah.
help you over the internet. You're not a client, or you're not covered by my liability insurance. If I give you information, you come back and it hurt you in some way, like, and then also, like, I don't think that dietitians are best served to like give blanket answers to common questions.
No.
The real magic of what we do is in a session reflecting back to the person to help them come up with the answer themselves for them, right? And like sometimes people show up in sessions, and one of my first questions is like, "Have you ever worked with a dietitian before?"
Yeah.
And then whether or not they say yes or no, I say, "Well, let me tell you what to expect from me.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. You're
Mhm.
going to ask me a bunch of questions, and we're going to collaborate to figure out what the next steps are." And they're like, "Oh, I thought this was gonna be like a class, like you were gonna give me the diet." I'm like, "There is no diet. What do you mean
People still say, "Give me the diet." Like,
you need
no.
the diet?" I'm like, "What diet you want? We can go one of 2 different ways, like, what do you like to eat?" Like, there is no the diet, and I think people in the GLP-1 space especially are expecting, like, a diet, and it's like, "No, no, actually, just the basics of, like, good nutrition actually works now. You don't need a diet. You don't need a scheme. You don't need to count points.
Mhm.
You don't need to do anything crazy, like, we gotta get back to basics." And
Yeah.
people are sometimes a little, like,
Peeved
disappointed that
about
I
it.
don't just
Yeah.
give it to them, but then I have to you have to say, like, "If I just told you what to eat, what's the likelihood of you actually doing it? Because you could have just downloaded a random plan from the internet. You didn't need me for that."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the coaching aspect way more than I thought I ever would when I first did.
Yeah. It's, like, honestly wild, really, like, how much I'm like, you know that you, like, if you could, like, chat GPT, like, a meal plan and give it, like, your macros that you got 17 years ago from a random coach, like, I don't even know who, and they're like, "Well, like, that didn't work," and I'm like, "Okay, so you don't just need the what, you need to bring yourself back to 1st grade and learn the who, what, when, where, how, why, because then that's what makes you and gives you the ability to, like, apply it yourself," and they're like, "I don't think about it that way." I'm like, "I know, that's why I'm telling you that," and they're
Dude,
like,
I had a great client session the other day, and we barely talked about food. We
"Yeah,
talked about her values and, like, her personality,
yes,
trying to get in touch with, like, what type of person she is in all the other aspects of her life.
mhm,
At work, with your family, with your kids, what do you do in your free time? Like, what's your vibe? And then how do we make the nutrition plan match that
vibe."
instead of you trying to match this, like, random paper nutrition plan? And she was like, and I was like, "Look at me motivational interviewing around values." And I was like,
One college class for that, but we'll take it.
I read the book. They just released, for all the dietitians listening, they just released the updated version of the motivational interviewing book, like a new episode on Audible. So, that's on my agenda to listen to. I made my not made, but I told my intern about it, and she's, like, already made her way all the way through it. So
Yes.
all
Nice.
right. We're coming up on, like, where I typically don't like to do super long podcast
Yeah.
episodes
No,
because I feel like you and I could keep talking about, like,
no,
being in the
I can literally I told you I love to talk, so,
because
like,
we agree on, like, pretty much anything. If there was anything that you could this is the closing question I've been asking a lot of the guests and dietitians on this podcast. If there was anything you wish other dietitians in this world that we're in online or, like, in our space would do better to better serve our patients, to better represent our profession, like, what what's, like, a thing that bothers you about other dietitians that you wish we would see more of that they would do better?
ooh, that's a good one.
Okay, I know my answer. I'll tell you mine.
Yeah,
So
you tell
my
me.
answer is, and I'm almost guilty of it as well, I'm, like, very self-aware that I do this, is, like, what works for me, what I like, what I choose to apply to my life is not appropriate for every single client that I'm ever gonna work with. And I have to sometimes disconnect where how I would do it and let the client figure out how they want to do it, right? And so I get really annoyed when I see dietitians are like, "I'm a vegan dietitian," or I'm a organic dietitian," or you know what I mean? Like, you see them, like, we're told that we should niche down to be really specific about our clients. So, like, I got this GLP-1 thing, weight management, but it's like that's my problem is, like, sometimes dietitians niche too far that they isolate other people and they, like, aren't individualizing enough. They're like, this is my approach. Or like everybody should do intuitive eating or everybody should count macros. Like I think if you're a good enough dietitian, you should be able to help people with both.
Both. Yes.
So what's your like pet peeve on the profession?
Yeah, like, I would say it kind of, like, bounces off of, like, the niche too far down, but, like, the almost being, like, too smart for your own good, right? Like,
Yeah.
dietitians are smart individuals. It's a master's now, plus a freaking year of unpaid interning, where you're pretty much, like, the scut of the kitchen. Like, let's be real. Um, and so, like, what often happens is I feel like dietitians get a bad rap, and we get a bad rap because a lot of times there are dietitians, and like I was probably guilty of this as an inpatient dietitian. They're super condescending, and like empathy is not learned. So like I live like in the Midwest. We're in Cincinnati, so we have a very diverse population varying from like socioeconomic status. And like as a baby dietitian, I grew up relatively privileged. So like I didn't understand food insecurity because I feel like especially as a dietitian, you read it and you take the classes, but until you have to apply that knowledge of like carb counting and food insecurity and what it means to be on WIC, you just like you don't understand. And so like you can't even put yourself in someone's shoes from that. So I wish that all dietitians would just like take a deep breath in empathy and like even just like chat GPT a conversation of what it's like to be food insecure or like insecure as to like stepping into the gym or insecure about like going to the grocery store, insecure because they can't shop at Whole Foods every week because like that's not realistic. Um so I wish like some dietitians would just like check their privilege. Like it is a privilege that you're the underscore organic underscore dietitian. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Must
that
that be a real person that we just offended?
maybe.
I
I'm
don't know. We
sorry.
just made it up, by the way. We don't know. I don't know an that's why I said that, the organic dietitian. I don't think
Yes.
that's a real person, but if it
Well,
is,
sorry.
no, it's okay. But I so like I appreciate that message so so much. I find myself particularly frustrated now with the MAHA shit, and they're just now
Yes.
talking like yesterday about cutting SNAP and Medicaid and all of these things. And it's like I used to work in a hospital where I would have a Spanish speaking immigrant with no money, no friends, no resources, was on a job site, fell
Mhm.
off a ladder, now has a traumatic brain injury, and they're going to live in the hospital for the next 400 days. I literally had somebody who got deported to Mexico after having a TBI, like totally invalid from
Yeah.
our hospital in Florida to their random hospital in Mexico. No idea what happened to them. Like these things are happening to real life people and they're
Yeah.
human beings,
Yes.
and it's like you don't know the struggles that people have, and I think sometimes we assume that, like, our audience is just gonna agree with us, and, like, who you're offending and who you're, like, being insensitive to when people make content. I think dietitians in general could do a better job of being, like,
Yeah.
cost conscious right now, like, the
Yes.
economy is in the shit. Like,
Yes.
we could do a better job of being, like, ethically like, not ethical, but, like, more mindful of, like, I hate to say big food, but you know what I mean? Like, we could be a little bit more mindful in, like, supporting products and supporting brands that
Yes.
align with good intentions or, like, are science-based or, like, safe versus, like, whoever we got a collaboration deal with, like,
Exactly.
that bothers me that, like, influencer marketing from
Oh,
dietitians, like,
100%.
unless you, like, truly love that product, I get the ick with dietitians.
Yes.
They're, like,
Oh,
always promoting
100%.
something new.
And, like, you can always remember a post where they, like, didn't, like, call out that company that they're now working with, but they were basically calling out that company that they were working with, being like, "This is the worst thing ever." But now that they're offering me a high five-figure brand deal or a six-figure brand deal, I love it. And I'm like, "Bullshit,
Yeah,
shit."
yeah.
Yes, so
I get emails all the time for, like, supplement deals and stuff, and I'm like, I mean, unless you're just, like, this random brand of creatine that I actually have used for the past 5 years, I don't wanna partner with you, and, trust me, I've DM'd these people, and they don't.
no, right? Yeah, so, yeah, I wish just people were, like, more conscious of that, and, like, I'm always open with my clients too, and I'm like, "I don't anticipate you to, like, shop at Whole Foods or Fresh Market or whatever the equivalent of that is wherever you live." Like, I shop at Kroger because that's, like, what it is in the Midwest, and, like, that's close. I shop at Target because our Target now has like some food stuff. We shop at Aldi, we shop at Costco. Like, I don't really care where it is, but like if I can get the same exact thing at Aldi that is at Whole Foods and Kroger, and it's $8 cheaper at Aldi, and like the packets are terrible and not made for people with 4 kids because there's only 7 containers in a package and I have to buy 3 of them to like equal it out. Like, yeah, bet your bottom dollar I'm gonna buy the off-brand version. So like I guess from a dietitian is like, stop being such like a brand snob. Like when you're actually looking out the ingredients and like reading the ingredients and like Googling what the ingredients are because you don't know what it means, they're all the same thing. It's just like one different little like double bond difference in product that like you're not even gonna notice. So like,
Doesn't matter. I always tell my clients, like, they're like, "What supplement should I buy? Can you make a recommendation?" I'm like, "Whatever the store brand is on sale that has the little seal of a like
yeah,
USP seal, I don't have a brand." "Oh,
yeah.
but like this brand or this brand," or I'm like,
Yeah, everybody's always like, "What do you think of this protein powder?" And I'm like, "Do you tolerate it?" They're like,
"Does it
"Yeah."
taste good?"
I'm like, "Does it taste good? Is it cost effective?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Well, if it's not one of those things, then let's find a new brand. Like, here are ones that I personally like, but I don't know your preferred texture of protein powder because that also varies from individual to individual.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
recommendation is to not buy the Costco size first and then to buy a small container of it and then go from there."
I love it. Great advice for other dietitians. I love that you take interns. I take interns. I think it's how we can do better as a profession. I
Yes.
think platforming dietitians and talking and trying to get these topics out there. So I'm so glad that you came on today. I will see you around. You're probably due for a Carline kid pickup here in a few minutes, like I am. Enjoy your evening of activities, and I'll see you on the internet.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.